Your eyes and your vision are under attack. Damaging blue light from the sun, your phone, your computer, your tablet, even light bulbs and car headlights is constantly bombarding you. The good news is our eyes actually already have a line of defense to counter the effects of blue light. This defense is made up of 3 pigments called carotenoids. MacuHealth with Micromicelle, the only supplement with the exclusive patent on all 3 macular carotenoids and Micromicelle technology.
The All Eyes Visual VRP is a portable vision testing platform that includes visual fields, acuity, color vision testing, pupillometry, and extraocular motility. The visual leverages virtual reality, artificial intelligence, and augmented technologies to enable eye care providers to test for and monitor common eye diseases. Visit alleyes.com for more information. With more screen usage and indoor time, myopia, also known as nearsightedness, is increasing and getting worse in children. Now, certified eye doctors can prescribe MiSight One Day, the first and only FDA-approved soft contact lens to slow myopia progression in age-appropriate children. Visit CooperVision.com to find a Brilliant Futures certified eye doctor near you. Do your patients know what presbyopia is?
There are people who are afraid of the press.
Have you talked to your patients about multifocal contact lenses?
I've heard the bifocal, but not multifocal.
Exactly, not multifocal.
Do you need help with your multifocal strategy? Learn more at the conclusion of this episode. Welcome back to part 2 of my interview with Dr. Pam Lowe. In this episode, Dr. Lowe makes lifestyle recommendations that can lower the risk of blindness from macular degeneration. If you're new here and you like our interviews, press like, subscribe, share, and hit the bell. Also, please leave comments. Be sure to watch our full-length documentary, Open Your Eyes, on Amazon Prime, Apple TV, iTunes, Google Play, and YouTube Movies and Shows. And tune in to our brand new radio show Saturday mornings at 9 a.m. Central Time on AM 1280 The Patriot. You know, you talked before about walking to school, and I think that brings up an interesting point when the blue light discussion. When we were kids, our parents would yell, "Come on in," from playing outside. Now the parents are yelling, "Go outside and play." You know, get off that damn computer. So talk about blue light and another controversial topic in eye care. Does it increase your risk for macular degeneration? Do we know? Do we have a feeling? If you had a lot of drusen and you, God forbid, had macular degeneration or was getting it, would you limit your digital device?
Limiting digital device use, no matter what age you are, especially the younger you are, is going to be difficult, right? So it's really hard to limit that because, especially as the child ages, or even my seniors now. You know, my mom is 83 and she has her iPad and she does everything on that. She has her medical apps and all that. So that is hard to limit. So to your point, we know ultraviolet light, definitely, UV light over a lifetime definitely increases your risk of AMD. We don't know specifically the HEVL, the high energy visible light, what that can do, but we know it has the propensity to damage the photoreceptors. So again, if I have a patient at risk, what am I going to do? I'm going to make sure that if they are on digital devices, that they have protection for that. It's going to automatically have UV protection. We're huge proponents of transitions for every age group because you have everything in there blocking blue violet, ultraviolet. It's just a great quality product that photo adjusts to whatever light the patient's in. So we definitely have those discussions. Now, when you look at the younger the child is, important, right, as you said, to go outside and get off those devices because of the risk for myopia. So, to me, whenever you could be protecting not only from the harmful rays for AMD, but just think as we age, UV protection is so important when we're outside for the skin around our eyes and cancers that can develop as well. So it has so I guess the short answer is we always talk about blocking the harmful light that can have the propensity to damage the photoreceptors in the ocular tissue.
So UV and blue light you would filter. Right. So let's talk about something that's another controversial topic, anticoagulants, antiplatelets. At one time we said that could increase the risk of macular degeneration. Then there was some studies that showed it didn't. Do you have a feeling on that one way or the other?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I haven't read as much on that, and there's emerging things coming out. But yeah, the whole vitamin K and how important that is definitely looks like it's a factor that affects it. So I think it's important to keep tabs on that and the research that continues to come out.
How about alcohol as a
Yeah.
risk
So
factor?
so alcohol, alcohol is just going to oxidize, especially overuse of alcohol. So it just depletes, it ages every part of our body because of the properties of it. It causes inflammation. So, you have to, if you're going to have alcohol use, it has to be in moderation. I do tell patients wine, which obviously is alcohol, but red wine, particularly the Pinot Noir grape, has resveratrol in it. Resveratrol is an antioxidant. So, wine in moderation, if the patient doesn't have any other health issues, I feel is fine for a patient, but especially, again, diabetics, folks at risk, high risk for AMD, we definitely have the alcohol discussion and they need to limit it or stop it.
And we know that alcohol depletes zinc, vitamin A, and thiamine, and these are all very important things.
Right, and so you're supplementing patients with carotenoids and antioxidants, right? But then if they're having alcohol, it defeats the purpose.
And alcohol is very important for very important for anti-inflammatory. And we learned from the AREDS study that zinc is very important. Zinc, let me correct that. Zinc is very important for immune system and anti-inflammatory. And we learned from the AREDS study that just taking zinc alone decreased the risk of macular degeneration by about 22, relative risk by about 22%.
Absolutely. And I actually have some patients just on 15 to 30 milligrams of zinc because of other reasons they may not be able to take the other supplements. So, yeah, that's a great point.
All right, so let's get to the point where we're talking about prevention. What can we do for prevention? And we kind of could reverse things a little bit. We talked about the risk factors. We talked about that you could do a genetic test to see if you're at risk, and that there's epigenetics that we could mitigate your risk. So let's talk about some of the things that we could do to mitigate your risk. Let's start with exercise.
Absolutely. So, exercise, and I tell my patients it's not running a marathon, it's just moderate exercise. And most studies have shown 30 minutes, 5 days a week is ample for getting the body moving. It helps metabolism. It helps, obviously maintain weight. And so it's not hard to do. 150 minutes a week. And I tell patients parcel that out and make a plan for it whenever you can. I encourage to start your day with exercise because, especially the working folks, they have a hard day. They come back, oh, now I'm too tired to exercise. So if we can nail it out. In fact, I nailed my exercise out right before I got on this call with you. So I was walking the talk, but that's important. And so I tell patients, and you know what? Maybe there's a day you're like, oh, I don't have the 30 minutes, but so I'm not going to do it. Then do 10, then do 5. Some minutes are better than 0 minutes, right? And then I tell patients, well, what does that that exercise mean? It's getting your heart rate up enough where that if I were talking to you on the phone, I could tell you weren't at rest. So a brisk walk, right? It could be an exercise bike, anything that either high impact or low impact. The younger the patient, they usually do more high impact things. The older patient, it's going to be more low impact. So that's really important. Another thing I love to tell my patients, especially as they age, is resistance is super important as well. Just for our joints, for my older female patients, we don't want broken hips, right? When that happens, it's a whole cascade of issues. So, what is resistance? It's the legs and the arms. And I tell patients the barometer is, so let's say I'm going to do a curl. What's the maximum pound I could do a curl? So let's say my maximum is 30. Then you cut that in half and you do 15 pounds of 10 to 15 reps, again, a few times a week, 3 to 4 times a week of doing those. And then and again, that's just moderate exercise. And when it comes to AMD, just walking as little as 12 blocks a day over 15 years decreased the risk of going on to advanced AMD by over 30%. And we know it's heart healthy. We know it's good for, the body mass index, our BMI. So it's just a win-win with exercise. And so that's where we start. And then we talk about what you put in your body along with how you move your body.
So let's talk about what we put in our body, the standard American diet, the SAD diet. And, 63% of what Americans eat is processed food, which is very unfortunate. People, I always tell people, you want to eat like your great grandmother ate. And they realize that, yeah, I'm eating a lot of chemicals. I said, if you're eating something and there's all these chemicals in there you can't pronounce and your doctor can't pronounce them, you probably shouldn't be eating it. And there was a study recently done that a fifth of death is related to poor diet. So what's your philosophy on diet for decreasing risk of macular degeneration?
Yeah, it is so key because that's where it really all starts. And, nutraceuticals are important, but I tell patients that's kind of an add-on. We need to start with those healthy habits. So the Mediterranean diet, I say the Mediterranean diet saves eyes and saves lives. So it's the fruits and vegetables. You want more veggies than fruits when possible. Low fat, the fish oils, the fatty fish oils are so essential, key in a Mediterranean diet. And then your whole grains, and to your point, all natural foods. And if a patient can maintain that diet, that really just, again, decreases their risk for AMD. The Nurses' Health Study showed that. It showed that, man, if you have healthy habits of not smoking, a healthy diet, and you move your body, you're decreasing your risk of macular degeneration by over 70%. So, it all starts there, and then we supplement accordingly after. One of the big diet issues, the first thing I ask the patient is how much pop. We say pop in Chicago. I know in other parts of the country, it's soda. So sometimes I'll just say, how much soda pop? So I cover myself. But, that is, to me, that's the evil beverage. And if patients are drinking one or more of those, especially a day, if they can cut that out to begin with, that's going to be key. It doesn't matter if it's regular or diet pop. Studies are showing you're putting yourself at equal risk for health issues with pop and soda. So that's one of the things we say. You can have this great Mediterranean diet, but we don't want you drinking the wrong things as well.
That's a great point. I did a podcast with Robert Lustig, who's an expert on fructose, and that was a really interesting podcast. And it's interesting because the USDA checks the Americans' blood every 10 years or so, and 92% of us are deficient in at least one nutrient, and about 15% of us, it's so bad we're actually committing suicide. Yeah. And one of the things I tell patients now, and I think it's interesting, and I like to get your take on it, is most people eat the same 5 to 10 things. That's all they have in their diet. They have a very limited things they eat. They like chicken and rice, and they'll eat that over and over again. Or they like turkey or steak or hamburgers, and they'll just keep eating it over and over again. So they become very deficient in the nutrients that aren't in the products they're eating. So I tell them, eat the rainbow. Make sure you're eating different colors. You're eating something from red and something like cherries and blueberries and something green and something orange. And so you have all these different colors, and each one of these colors have different carotenoids and different vitamins in it. So this way just rotate it. And I'll give them a sheet that from one of our people that I've Mary Beth Gonzalez, who I interviewed, whose husband was a very famous cancer doctor, and they have this whole program for nutrition when people have very serious disease. But I took one of her sheets and I give it out to patients so they have a variety of foods that they could eat. So they're just not eating the same things over and over again. And I was wondering philosophically, what you think about that.
Absolutely. I love that discussion you're having. So when I tell patients, it's the foods of color, just like your red, orange, yellows, those dark, deep, rich colors. Berries, the darker the berry, the better, right? So blueberries are great. Yeah, we have that same discussion, and then we use an informational pamphlet, and I'll do a shameless plug for the Ocular Wellness Nutrition Society because they have a pamphlet that we've personalized with our
I'm a board member.
Yeah. Oh, awesome. Awesome.
I'm a board member. Julie.
uh, yeah. So we use that, and it's awesome because it talks about why nutrition's important. You open it up, the foods, and the nice colorful pictures of the foods you should be eating, the foods not pictured to stay away from. And then what I love about that informational piece too is the evils of what I say are the two white legal powders that kill us in the U.S., which are salt and sugar. And so then we have that discussion. Not only do you need to eat well, but what you get tripped up on, to your point, are all the processed foods that have the sugar bombs in them and the salt bombs in them that we don't even realize unless we're looking at that label. So yeah, I love it. It is all about color. The more colorful, the better it is. And your plate looks better too. You know, my hardest folks are the gentlemen who are usually the meat and potatoes guys, right? So it's brown and gray. You know, that's like their plate. We're like, we need to get some greens and reds and oranges in there.
Yeah, and I think when I explain to them, you know, how you're eating like 5 things, and if we spread it out, you're getting more nutrition, they kind of get it.
MacuHealth, your science-born and tested solutions for visual performance, macular degeneration, and dry eye syndrome. New products coming soon. Embrace the science.
The All Eyes Visual VRP is a portable vision testing platform that includes visual fields, acuity, color vision testing, pupillometry, and extraocular motility. The visual leverages virtual reality, artificial intelligence, and augmented technologies to enable eye care providers to test for and monitor common eye diseases. Visit alleyes.com for more information.
Rub your eyes often? Blurry or double vision driving at night? Red light, stop. You may have keratoconus, a progressive eye disease which can cause vision loss. Visit coulditbekc.com to take the quiz.
If you rub your eyes and are experiencing changes to your vision, this may be a symptom of keratoconus, a progressive eye disease that may lead to significant vision loss. Early diagnosis is important, so don't ignore the simple act of rubbing your eyes. Please visit livingwithkc.com. So when we look at, you know, Joanna Seddon did a study. She was like the first one to do a study on lutein and zeaxanthin with food. And she found that if you eat food that, you know, green leafy vegetables with lutein and zeaxanthin, we could decrease the risk by 43%. So, and a lot of it has to do with also how well you absorb it also. Some people don't absorb very well. So, and that was shown in the Gale and the Polar study, where you could decrease the risk up to 90% if you're absorbing zeaxanthin and in the 70s lutein, and decrease your risk of cataracts. You could comment a little bit about that.
Yeah. So like we discussed, lutein and zeaxanthin are the two carotenoids in nature that of the 13 we ingest that go directly to the eye. And so they're just so important for that. Now, when we talk about macular degeneration, you know, absorption is important. So remember, if you have a higher BMI or more adipose tissue, that's going to reduce possibly the uptake of lutein and zeaxanthin. But lutein in your macula, lutein and zeaxanthin, when they get there, lutein converts itself to a form of zeaxanthin called mesozeaxanthin naturally in our macula. And then that's why there's a higher concentration. There's a 2-to-1 ratio of zeaxanthin to lutein in the fovea, but then there's twice as much lutein compared to zeaxanthin parafoveally. So that's kind of, if it's getting absorbed, that's where the protection mechanism comes in when it comes into AMD. But to your point, you know, that's why we have, even though it's an objective test, we have been monitoring MPOT over time just because it's at least a barometer. And I look at trends. Is it the same, or is it going up, or is it going down, right? And so it's the trends that we look at. And so I love having that as a barometer to, is what you're doing with your diet actually, or supplements actually getting absorbed into the body.
And there's been some recent studies that eggs are protective and oranges are protective.
Yeah, it's that lutein is amazing because remember, lutein is kind of where it starts and it's breaking itself down to form zeaxanthin in the body. Zeaxanthin, for me, I feel it's important to supplement because that's harder to get in our diet than
The
lutein.
mesozeaxanthin, yes.
Yeah, yeah. So so zeaxanthin, is mainly paprika, right? And how much of that are we having? So I love that. I love personally for me, I like when I give a supplement that there's a good amount of zeaxanthin in it, especially for those folks that might not convert as well. The lutein to the meso might not convert as well. But again, I like having a barometer to measure things by, and hopefully, we'll have a subjective barometer down the road. But yeah, so I can't say enough about the importance of the foods that you eat naturally to get those, because I will tell you, Carrie, it is so interesting. My patients who are immigrant women from Italy, Greece, like the Mediterranean area, unbelievable. They score off the charts on their MPOD. They're not on any supplements. They score off the chart on MPODs. And when I ask them what they eat, I go, I have one of my favorite patients. She has a beautiful Italian accent, and I go, oh, so what kind of foods do you eat, and how often do you go out to eat? She goes, what do you mean go out to eat? I cook fresh every day. I have my grains, I have this. And so like her MPOD was in the 85%. I mean, it was just crazy. And she had to go for cataract surgery. Her dark adaptation was spot on. I mean, no signs of subclinical AMD. And she's 2015 vision. And she's about 2 years post-cataract surgery now. Maculas are awesome. And I attribute, a lifetime of that Mediterranean diet.
When we were doing the movie and we were in Costa Rica and we were looking at the centenarians, those people did not have macular degeneration, and they were living over 100 because, they live off the land.
Yep.
Everything they don't eat chemicals like we do.
Absolutely. And just think about, not only the chemicals, but just look at our sugar intake over time. So again, early 1900s, I was looking this up. The average, now this is the average American, had about 112 grams of sugar in their diet a day. And this was mostly natural sugars, right? Back then, there weren't all these high fructose things and things like that, which came to about 90 pounds a year. Okay, that was the average. Some were less, some were more. We looked at it in 2009, and that amount doubled. Like the average American was 180 pounds of sugar. That's over 220 grams a day. Now, you shouldn't go over 50 grams of sugar in a day. Ideal for women is 25, about 39 for men. But wow, like what an increase. And it's ketchup. It's in the canned tomatoes I buy to put in my pasta sauce, right? It's in the barbecue sauce. So it's just everywhere. It's in the low fat. This is one of the things I hate about things that say they're low fat. Anything that's low fat, spidey senses should go up, right? Because it tastes like crap. So they're going to put sugar and salt in it to make it taste better. So, we tell our patients how to read the labels. But the sugar bombs, again, that's an aging, that's an oxidizing, chemical you're putting in your body. So, eating well, like these immigrant patients do, and all of it's natural. I tell patients, don't count the sugar that's in your orange or in your peach. That's natural. I'm talking about added sugar.
Right. The standard American diet. So people watching this, they do want to know about supplements. So let's talk about supplements. I've been doing this, a number of years, and I've had great luck with lutein, zeaxanthin, mesozeaxanthin, though the triple carotenoid in a product called MacuHealth. And I've seen some very, very good results. Decrease, with the whole program, decrease macular degeneration. And I was wondering, where are you on the supplements for the carotenoids? And then we'll go into omega-3s and some of the other ones.
Yeah, I think carotenoids are just so important. And to be honest with you, I have that discussion when I looked at Stringham studies with cognition as well, and the dangers, these kids growing up with digital devices. I actually start my kids on a chewable lutein and zeaxanthin supplement early on. And I just talk to parents about that, show them what studies have shown. The cool thing about carotenoids is there's no side effects. Obviously, there's a cost to taking them, but millennial moms especially, they get it. They know their kids are growing up with these devices. And so we have those discussions about carotenoids that early on. And then again, I rather teach my patient how to eat the foods that are rich in carotenoids and then supplement as needed. But most kids, I'll ask, I'll point blank, what do you have for breakfast? What do you have for lunch? Just ask them, not do you eat healthy, right? That, of course, they're going to tell you, oh, sure I do, right? But what do you actually have? And it's surprising, young kids, what you even hear they, eat. A Pop-Tart in the morning, and then I grab something at school for lunch. So it really, with busy parents being so busy, and especially with the pandemic, not only being the parent but the teacher, right? I mean, I think our nutrition really suffered, even more so. So it's educating as early as possible on the power of nutritional supplements when it's appropriate and what carotenoids do for long-term vision.
And let's talk about people that have good vision that aren't macular degeneration that increase their carotenoid levels and increase their macular pigment. What that could do with glare and photophobia, and for athletes, for tennis players or baseball players, temporal processing speed, sleeping better. And
absolutely.
Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, Stuart Richer, who was one of my doctors when I was in clinic at ICO. Who now, as we know, is the guru of nutritional supplements. He did the last study with lutein and how that increased not only MPOD levels, but contrast sensitivity. He did a zeaxanthin study as well that increased your reaction time, like in driving, especially driving at night. And for visual performance, there have been excellent studies, especially baseball players. They have that ball coming at a high speed with certain rotations, that higher levels of lutein and zeaxanthin. Again, there's no side effects to those higher levels, and they visually perform better. A reduction in glare, reaction times are increased because the vision is so enhanced.
I mean, it's just so fantastic how we could help our patients, even that have normal vision, to make it even almost like supervision.
Absolutely.
And let's talk about some of the other things that decrease the risk of getting macular degeneration. Omega-3s. There's been a lot of studies to show that omega-3s decrease the risk.
Absolutely. So omega-3s are so key as an anti-inflammatory action in our body. So the therapeutic doses for omega-3s, and we know that's broken down into DHA and EPA. So when it has the total of omega-3, the standard of therapeutic dose is 1,000 milligrams or more. So that's where you want to be to get, a healthy dose in. I love my patients, if they could have 3 servings of salmon or a fatty fish like that a week, they're naturally going to be getting a healthy dose of omega-3s. But omega-3s are so anti-inflammatory, protect the vessels. They're awesome for immunity, long-term immunity as well. So they just play a vital role. We know that our body needs omega-3s, which are anti-inflammatory, and omega-6s, which are more pro-inflammatory. We know we need some inflammation in our body to be healthy, but we need a balance, right? So you want more. Unfortunately, the SAD diet, American diet, is more omega-6s than 3s, and we need to make that balance different. So that's where the omega-3s come into play. Awesome for cardiovascular disease as well. And so just has a wealth of benefit for the body and the macula.
And, I try to recommend wild salmon to my patients, but some people just won't eat fish, and some people are vegetarian. They won't take a fish supplement. So is there something that you recommend to our vegan patients?
Yeah. So if they could eat more flaxseed, the plant-based omega-3s. Now, I've looked at studies, and of what I've looked at, the animal-based usually has more bang for your buck. But certainly, if that's not doable, the flax seeds are great. Those types of oils.
And how about algae oil?
I haven't had any experience with algae oil.
So that's something we recommend. And where I am in New Jersey, we have a lot of patients from India who are vegan, and that's what we recommend to them. And they have very poor MPODs and they just have very poor, they have a lot of metabolic disease. And even though omega-3s may not be related directly to MPOD, it's just that their levels are very poor. And we have to try to get their omega-3 levels up. And that's what we recommend. And they do fairly well with that. And we know that people who take omega-3s, there was a study done, almost 90,000 patients, a meta-analysis, you could decrease macular degeneration by close to 40%. So let's go to vitamin D. Vitamin D is so important. It's an immune modulator. And talk about vitamin D and macular degeneration.
Absolutely. So vitamin D, when I think of vitamin D, I think of immunity right out the get-go. And when you look at the vitamin D studies over time, especially me living here in Chicago and you being farther, well, you're south and north, right? you live in both. But there's studies that have come out of just looking at diseases in the body and bad cancers that kill. And especially people of deep pigmentation who live above the 30th parallel, where they're not getting that amount of sunshine that we naturally get through the vitamin D. You know, hands down, people of deep color especially die of the bad cancers that kill at a higher rate. Vitamin D has been implicated with increased risk of diabetes, right, which we know increases your risk for AMD. So can't say enough about vitamin D, the anti-inflammatory properties of it, and how it's actually in most of the supplements I give will always have at least 1,000 of vitamin D. I use a supplement called DVS, Diabetic Vision Support, that I love for my diabetic patients because it has 2,000 of D built right in. And again, we know the diabetic patient is at a higher risk for AMD. So I love that it has that in it and other anti-inflammatories as well. But vitamin D, especially my patient base is in Chicago. In Chicago, 3 months of the year, we're in our beautiful summertime now where you can get your vitamin D, but if you're working full time, how much are you out there, getting it? So we have all our patients minimally high risk for AMD or not. We talk about vitamin D, but definitely our patients at risk for AMD.
Yeah, there's been a number of studies that show that vitamin D decrease the risk, and especially compared where it's higher versus lower. And when we recommend vitamin D, we recommend it with vitamin K2 as well, because vitamin D increases calcium, and we don't want the calcium going into the arteries. We want it going into the bones and the teeth, and vitamin K2 redirects the calcium away from the arteries. So there's a lot of companies that make a D3 K2 supplement, whether it's Life Extension or maybe Zymogen, or there's a lot of good companies, Orthomolecular. So there's a number science Designs for Health. There's a lot of good companies, but certainly you want to get your vitamin D levels checked. You want to make sure that you're not overdosing on vitamin D, and if you are taking it, you want to make sure you check it every so often that you're not overdosing on vitamin D. I mean, very few people do overdose, but it's possible. And you want to try to get it between 50 and 80 nanograms per ml. It would be the optimal level of vitamin D. Now let's go to the B complex. Homocysteine. There was a studies that would show that if homocysteine is high, that there's a increased risk of macular degeneration, just like an increased risk of cardiovascular disease and Alzheimer's. A lot of these diseases run together. If you could comment a little bit about that.
Yeah, the B complex is so key. Again, it plays a vital role in helping with that metabolism that we were talking about. So it's not only treating with carotenoids, you want to treat the metabolism of the macula as well. So you want to get inner and outer retina. So that B complex, B6, B12, folate, those are all really great at helping reduce homocysteine, because we know that causes higher levels in our blood causes inflammation. So those are great with that. And that's why that DVS I was talking about, vitamin, has a great B complex in it that's really helpful for our diabetic patients. And I actually, when I'm treating especially early or subclinical AMD, I always treat with a supplement that has B complex in it as well.
Excellent. Well, I want to really thank Dr. Pam Lowe for joining me today. She's a wealth of information. She's one of the heroes of eye care in the optometry world. I just can't say enough. Pam, if people want to learn more about you, how could they do that?
I'm Google. You can Google me. My practice is called Professional Eye Care Center. So our website is very informational. www.proeyecarecenter.com. But anyone could reach out to me at any time. We have an email on that. So I'm happy to ask, get questions from colleagues and patients. Love talking about what we can do to make our lives better and especially preserve our vision. So Dr. Gelb, thank you so much for letting me take the stage with you today because it's such an important discussion.
Thank you, Dr. Pamela. You're amazing, and I really appreciate you joining me today. Thank you so much.
Your eyes and your vision are under attack. Damaging blue light from the sun, your phone, your computer, your tablet, even light bulbs and car headlights is constantly bombarding you. The good news is our eyes actually already have a line of defense to counter the effects of blue light. This defense is made up of 3 pigments called carotenoids. MacuHealth with Micromicelle, the only supplement with the exclusive patent on all 3 macular carotenoids and Micromicelle technology.
Rub your eyes often? Blurry or double vision driving at night? Red light, stop. You may have keratoconus, a progressive eye disease which can cause vision loss. Visit coulditbekc.com to take the quiz.
If you rub your eyes and are experiencing changes to your vision, this may be a symptom of keratoconus, a progressive eye disease that may lead to significant vision loss. Early diagnosis is important, so don't ignore the simple act of rubbing your eyes. Please visit livingwithkc.com. The All Eyes Visual All VRP is a portable vision testing platform that includes visual fields, acuity, color vision testing, pupillometry, and extraocular motility. The visual leverages virtual reality, artificial intelligence, and augmented technologies to enable eye care providers to test for and monitor common eye diseases. Visit alleyes.com for more information. Fitting multifocal contact lenses presents a big opportunity to meet patient needs while growing your practice. Alcon is your partner not only with our innovative portfolio, but through e-learning. Learn to enhance your multifocal strategy today with the Alcon Experience Academy.
OIE Broadcasting is the emerging leader in social media. We use scientific entertainment to drive more patients into your office. Visit oiebroadcasting.com and sign up today.
Since I bought Safe For You, my dad makes me clean his boat.
Es natural y es un buen producto.
Every time I go back to school, my mom always makes sure that I have my Safe For You products. I bring extra, and my roommates certainly don't mind.
It's a good thing I had Safe For You to clean up after this little guy.
When my hands get dry, I like to wash them with Safe For You.
And most importantly, the reason why I buy Safe For You is because it's safe for me and you.